Welcome to the Orykl Podcast, where we ask the big question: Hey, universe, what's going on? I'm your host, Huenu Solsona, and today we are exploring another fascinating spiritual journey. Let's get started. Friends, welcome again to the Orykl Podcast. Hey, universe, what's going on? And today I am joined by one of Orakel's vetted practitioners, Dianne Schaver. And I'm very excited. She's got a wonderful story that I'm sure all of you will be very interested to hear. So, welcome, Dianne.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to connect with you and have a chat for sure.
Great. So, Dianne, for those that don't know you, could you maybe tell us a little bit about you and what you do right now?
Wonderful. Yes, I am with Sacred Light Integrations, and currently I offer services for Reiki, chakra balancing, meridian cleansing, hypnosis. I do a lot of sessions around emotional healing with the emotional body, energy healing with the emotional body, and then as well as guided shamanic journeys to allow people to go into a guided trance and take them to other upper and lower worlds through the shamanic practices.
Love it. Okay, and we'll go into those in a little more detail a bit later. So
Nice.
I love your story. I know your story. I think it's pretty incredible. So maybe you can take us back to the beginning of that journey and how you got into energy healing. So yeah, tell us a bit about your story and your health story in particular.
Yeah, it was quite a journey for sure. I had been at a very young age, at the age of 18, I started getting very sick. And so, of course, in our society, we go to Western medicine. And it was a turbulent ride at first because they weren't able to diagnose me on what was wrong with me. So it was a lot of tests. And as anyone that's been wrapped up in the world of Western medicine before, they know what that's like. I was finally diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and it's an autoimmune disorder. And I struggled for years with it. After a while, the disease progressed so bad that they removed a majority of my colon, thinking that that would take away part of it or the majority of the disease. And it did for just a little while, but not that long. A few months after that, my body raged back even stronger. And by chance, I was in the hospital when my colon actually ruptured, and I was put on life support to keep me alive. And I went through this. I came through that, and I was able to overcome that. But then I went through another series of surgeries and problems, and uh, went over that bump in the road. Well, for many years after that, then I was stable. I was pretty good. But then I shattered my arm in 2012, and my body went back into the same um, uh, symptoms as I had before, but without having my colon. The doctors were perplexed on what my problem, what was going on, since I didn't have the colon, but I had all the symptoms. My case was actually taken to a national board, and the final diagnosis I got from a doctor of Western medicine is, we don't know what's wrong with you, and we don't know how to fix you. So at that
What
point in
were you
time,
eating at that time? Were you sick? Were you, obviously it was a digestive problem.
yeah,
What were your symptoms?
my symptom was I wasn't able to keep anything inside me. Anything I ate was just left me very soon. You can
Yeah.
put it that way. But I was barely 100 pounds, and my body was, of course, when you eat food and it goes right through, you're not absorbing any nutrients. So I was very, um, very weak for one thing. And I had a constant problem because in the first round, I had been losing a lot of blood. And so I had a constant problem of anemia. So I was constantly, my body was always fighting to build enough blood to,
Yeah.
keep our body going. And of course, whenever I would have been on steroids for so long. And then, of course, the second time around, that had been fortunately not a heavy dose, but to try to keep any inflammation in my body down. So of course, whenever you're in Western medicine, a lot of times you're taking a medication to counteract the medication of another medication. But yeah, the second time around, it was just a lot of not having getting the nutrients or the fuel that my body needed. And then of course, all systems in your body are not functioning properly when it's
Yeah.
not getting the nutrients that it needs.
So you were taking, I suppose, a lot of drugs or also vitamins to supplement?
I was taking at that point, they had me on like nutritional food to try to get my body to have some nutrients. Um, I wasn't on a lot of medications, but like I said, I think we tried a small dose of steroids for a little while, but we eliminated that because I didn't have the disease and they couldn't diagnose me. There was nothing, like, with all of the doctors at this board, they're just like, we don't know what's wrong. They came back with some trial and error things for them to work on. But again, at that point, it was, for me, it was very frustrating having been down this road before. And here I was at the same situation of not really having an answer to the root cause of what had originally caused all of this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And so how many years from, so you said the first bout was like when you were about 18,
Yeah,
and then
from, yeah,
continue?
1998 until like 1997, 98. And then the
Yeah.
second round started in 2012 when I shattered my arm.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
then went on.
So after that, a short time after I got that diagnosis, I collapsed on my kitchen floor. I was so weak one night and I was done. I mean, you can imagine after 2 rounds of this, your emotions are just like, you know, you get to a point where it's very frustrating. But then I thought of my parents and I thought, I could easily do what I wanted to do, but we can't do that to the family and friends that have been there along the way. So it was then that I really realized it was my job to figure this out. And nobody else's. I had tried all of their the protocols and medicines and all that. So
You said
fortunately,
something like 18. Did you say that you had 18 operations? Is that right?
yeah. hmm Yep,
Is it,
because when I was on the steroids, I fractured my back, I broke my hip and one of my elbows. So my other elbow. Um, so yes, and of course with complications with the surgeries, um, and then having to have my intestines restructured, there was other surgeries with that. So it was just one right after another.
yeah,
Having those weird situations then come up from other, like I said, all the other medications I was on.
yeah. All right. So now
Yes.
you figured that the only person that was going to get you out of this was you.
I figured that, yeah, that's what it pretty much came down to. And fortunately, after that, I went to uh, a class, a session through meetup.com, and I found this class. It's to start your new year aligned. And I was just like, well, that sounded pretty good. But in that class, the instructor talked about the energy part that we are. And for me, it was like lifting the blanket off of something I already knew. It's like I had completely forgotten about all of that side of me. So from that meeting, I went on and I began to really dive into, the energy part of it, energy healing. And I started practicing. I started going to different events. So of course, when you go to events, you talk to people and they suggest something else. So I got into Reiki. I was doing meditations, automatic writing, got into the crystals and how, crystal healing energy. Really truly started working with essential oils and using those for the therapeutic uses. I did Zen Shiatsu. I started doing yoga, Qigong, all of the body movements. And what was so interesting is it was twofold. First of all, I wasn't focused on being sick all the time. I was focused on going to the next event, taking in the next class, finding different modalities that were benefiting my body. And I was trying so many different things. Once again, I was having fun. My body was still rebelling some, but in short time, I started noticing changes. And I'm not sure what I could have really attributed it to because I was doing so many things. But within a year, I was prescription med free. And I was like, wait a second, how did I just do that in a year when Western medicine had not done it in 20 plus years? Um,
Incredible.
so, so I feel like when I started really feeling so much better and finding the benefits of it, I wanted to go back and figure out how I did it. And so I went back and began to look at some of the core energy structures and stuff that I have that small class on my website for energy healing, how it works and where to start, to help others with that. So yeah, that was my story. So then shortly after that, I was like, other people were starting to ask me, especially about the emotional part. And that's how my business really started. Because people we're not sure on how to work with our emotions, and we don't understand that those emotions can actually become blocks within us. And that's what had, I think, really happened with me. I hadn't really processed going
Mm,
through all of that stuff that I went through. I never really worked with the emotional part of it. I was just focused on physically getting through my day.
yeah.
So those emotions I just kept putting in my backpack, if you will. And then when I got better, a lot of those emotions started coming up. So started working with the emotions, and I was working with people just to help them. And people were like shocked on how we could, just talk about an emotion, what happened, what was the memory behind it, how did it not pass through them energetically, because things happen in our life and we don't process it. And when we're stressed or there's a lot of stuff going on, or if we're in a medical crisis of some kind. But it's important to bring that back up and see it from a new perspective and allow it to move through us and not hold on to it.
Mm. Yeah, so I
So,
suppose when they talk about, shoving things under the rug, that it's going to come up later, that's kind of what it means. So how does it work? How does an emotion translate eventually into a disease or an illness?
well, if we have uh, an emotion such as like a frustration, and we have that frustration and we hold it, if that frustration is about um, I'm trying to think of an example now that I really can't, but the emotion comes like, so we think about a blood clot like near our heart. A blood clot near our heart would be very serious, right? But the emotion is the same way. Think about somebody that doesn't allow themselves to express love. Let's put it that way. So if you don't allow yourself to express love, like if you're always just cold and isolated, if you don't share that love with other people or receive love, that heart energy has really become, your energy is not flowing through your heart. Um, so perhaps that's love unreceived or love not shared, but that block can, of course, affect our heart energy. And eventually the person may present problems of like a heart condition or a heart blockage, or arteries in the valve become blocked and so on. But talking through some of those emotions and understanding, that something from their childhood may not have passed through, or their parent didn't give them love, or they didn't receive that or share it. Talking through those, people can understand like, oh, wow, as a child, or an adult in crisis, we wouldn't have processed it correctly. So not sure if that makes sense, but
And how do we process it so that we are liberated from it so that we can be, healthy again or in the flow again? How do we
yeah,
do
many
that?
times it's talking about it and seeing it from a new perspective.
Mm,
So many of these things come from times when we don't actually look at it and allow it to come up. And there's a lot of crying because people don't, like I said, a lot of times crying is a release. And if people
right.
can go through and process like, oh my gosh, I didn't feel that sadness when it happened, and just allowing that to unfold. Um, and then recognizing it, if something happened in a situation, looking at it from the other person's perspective. I've had that many times come up in my hypnosis, actually, that people are allowed to see perspective from a different side. Like, they always thought their mom felt a certain way about them. But then in hypnosis, they see like, wow, my mom felt a completely different way. So looking at things from a different perspective, and then we do energetically go in and just clear it after we've talked about it. And people normally feel like a great release after just having that conversation and allowing themselves to feel what it was that was meant to be felt to begin with.
Mm. So when somebody comes to you with an issue of, say, sometimes people don't know, right, where it's coming from.
Mhm.
How does the session go? Do you first chat with them and figure out where they're at and then decide what the best modality is? Or do they normally come and say, hey, I want a hypnosis session? Or because I assume that, different things work for different people, and that you can decide, I suppose, on the session as well, what would best suit this person to heal them or not. How does it work?
Yeah. I normally allow, if the client comes to me and says, I want to try hypnosis, of course, we're going to flow with that. But many times when we have a little chat, even within the first 5 or 10 minutes, actually the first 5 minutes, the guides are usually, their guides are directing what that person would most benefit from.
Mm,
And sometimes there's sessions like I can do an hour-long session, and we can start with releasing a few emotions and talking about those emotions, and then maybe perhaps go into a light like guided meditation to help clear energetically that way. And then they may receive a message as a channel. So the sessions can be like a straight, all of emotions. That can be hypnosis. It could be a journey. But sometimes we just listen to the guides and we'll flow through the session as the guides are leading it. Because it's basically the person's higher self or their spirit guides directing the session.
And so at what stage did you start listening to other people's guides? Is this something you practice or did it just come to you?
It started coming to me. Like I said, I originally started working with emotions for other people, and I was using a pendulum. And all of a sudden, then I started feeling the pendulum flow before the pendulum would flow. I would feel the energy within me, like if it was a yes or a no. And then shortly after that, when I was allowing myself to relax, I would start seeing the images of the energy around the person, the emotion around the person. I actually can see what happened to them in a certain lifetime or in this lifetime of something that happened. And so then I just truly started trusting the guides because the information I was getting, of course, it made no sense to me. But when I would share it with the client or my friend or whoever it was, to them, it made complete sense. And at that point, when you start getting that validation over and over again, you do truly start to trust what you're seeing and hearing. As odd as the messages seem to you, the other person reflects on it or is able to interpret it.
Yeah. So do people need one session or multiple sessions, or does it depend on the issue?
It depends on where they're at on their journey. Many people are they struggle to do the self work, so they'll have a few more. They'll have a session every other week or every week. Other people, they come when they need a little nudge or they need some help or they're stuck on an issue. So it's, as I said, on each individual, it's where they're at on their journey and how much work they're doing on, in addition to, meeting with me or other providers or practitioners to advance on their journey. Because like you said, everybody kind of resonates with different people different ways. So they may come to me to work, on hypnosis or an emotion, but they may go to somebody else for a channeling. And it's fun to get the different viewpoints and work with that and see how to take that information and embody it and integrate it into their how they're working through all of their past or progressing in their journey.
Mm. And is there something that you think you're particularly good at with clients, like a particular client that you're best suited for?
Uh, I haven't really thought about that because I feel like I'm very good about explaining things in a very simplistic way. So sometimes it's, people that may be just getting started or people that have hit a juncture on their journey. A lot of times, we often make things a little way too complicated. We try to complicate things, and I love making it as simple as possible, taking it down to applying it in our daily lives because the more we complicate things, the more that we're putting, shall we say, blocks in our energy field and our, the distortions in our energy field. So the more we can simplify things and not think about things and just allow energy to flow, the more that natural energy and our natural energy will flow more smoothly. And we'll get the messages that we're meant to get. And we'll meet the people that we're supposed to meet. So I like keeping it as simple as possible. So
Yeah. Do you have some daily rituals of things that you do to keep yourself healthy?
yes, essential oils, yoga, and meditation. Yeah.
Every day.
Yep. Every day.
Yeah. Love it. So there's a video on your website. It's actually a course that I listened to a few weeks ago and I really loved it. And you were explaining energy in a very simple way, like you said. I'd love it if you could just give us a brief overview of how energy works. I know it's a big topic, but it was really interesting because you kind of explained it in a sort of scientific way, and it's a very real thing. It's not just woo woo, it's just it can be explained by science, I guess. But you said it
Mhm.
very nicely. Can you explain, energy and how we can cure ourselves energetically, sort of like you did in that program, if you remember?
as simple as possible. As I said, after I healed myself within the year and improved my life so much, I went back to figure out how. Well, when you go back to just everything is vibrating atoms. And if you can just look at everything as vibrating cells, and if you could take it back to the simplicity of that, um, that's a powerful thing because everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. And I think one of the things that most people don't realize is every cell, every organ, every tissue, every bone in our body is vibrating at a certain frequency. That is, it's measured by science. But things that are going to affect that frequency are the people that we're around, the toxins that we apply to our bodies, our the environment that we're in, what's next to us, because vibrating energy, of course, the law of resonance, vibrating energy around us is going to affect our energy body. But whatever is affecting it, one of the big things is, of course, our thoughts. We're with ourselves 24/7, and it's how we're talking to ourselves. Are we talking to ourselves like, you got this, you can handle this? Or are you doing like what I did in that first story of saying, I'm sick all the time? So when that healthy human vibration begins to lower, when things are affecting it and our energy is drawing down, when it drops below that 62 number, the cells begin to actually mutate. And when you hit like 58, the cells actually can, start to produce the viruses and the flus, and people are getting sick. If it drops even lower, of course, then you're going to start getting more serious viruses. Drop any lower, you're going to have cancer. And if it drops down to a lower frequency, I think it's 42, that's when the death process starts. So that alone, when you can put yourself into like a vibrational bank account, you're going to start paying attention to where your frequency is and how you're feeling. And this is not only physical, but mental. Are you in an upbeat mood? Can you face life challenges when you hit that road? Or if you have physical challenges already, or you're one that's constantly getting sick, you want to start looking at your vibration. What is around you? Is impacting you? So some of the things that I started doing before, I should have mentioned this before, is like listening to calming music. Our nervous system is the first defense or our first interaction with the outside world. All our body is it's vibrating energy, and our eyes take that vibrating energy, send it to our brain to interpret what we're seeing, takes the vibrating energy and tells us what we're hearing. We touch something, it's the nervous system that sends it to the brain. And it's when the nervous system's overloaded, it's starting to steal other energy from other systems in the body. We have the 12 main systems in the body. So when those other systems are being robbed, the nervous system has to process. In our day and age, we're going, all the time. People are not getting to sleep. They're not taking time to care for themselves. And that is what's drawing the energy from other parts of the body. And that's when we start getting disease. So it's all in relation to energy and how it's flowing through our bodies. So that was a really quick summary. I don't know if that if that
Yeah.
summed it up or.
Yeah, it did beautifully. So if you could give an advice to somebody to do one thing every single day that would heal them physically by doing something emotional, what would you suggest?
The number one thing, like I said, is the nervous system. Is calm that nervous system down, because if you can calm the nervous system down, it's going to help calm your mind down, and then help the physical body to balance. When we sleep, a lot of times we do have that time to reset, but many times we short ourselves on sleep. And if we're so stressed out for 16, 17 hours of the day, the time that we're sleeping is not really balancing that out. So just taking time to calm the nervous system down, if we're able to do that, would help the physical body, I think, tremendously.
Through meditation or calming music, or in whichever way the person can calm
Mhm.
down, I suppose.
Yeah. Epsom salt bath, essential oils, meditation, listening to calming, healing music. I know some people are like, well, I like the bumpy, rocky music, but think about your body and how your nervous system is interpreting that. Last night I was listening to some new frequencies and I feel energy. And when you listen to music and you can feel it vibrating through all of your cells, it's a good piece of, you know, um, the solfeggio frequencies and so forth that is very healing to the human body. So
Yeah. I've seen quite a bit lately on the internet, different hertz, different music for different, I think emotions even, because love has a certain frequency, you know, relaxation, creativity. So is there, and there's healing music, right? Which is, it also vibrates at a certain hertz.
Mhm.
Am I right?
Yeah.
What is that range? Do you know?
I don't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure the range. Isn't like 296 to 7 or 800
Okay.
off the top of my head, but I'm not sure on that. Like I said, it's the solfeggio frequencies, I think, is one that a lot of people go to for the healing energy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, amazing. Dianne, it's been so great to hear the story. And I mean, there's a lot more I know to be learned and to share with people, but we'll wrap it up here. Is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with? Any last messages or anything you'd like to share?
No, just be true to yourself on your journey and look within for the answers, because more than likely your intuition is more spot on than you realize.
I agree. Thank you so much, Dianne. Thank you
Thank
for being,
you.
and we'll see you at Oracle.
Bye.